on now. You can't even do this. Look.
Industry that's about healing and about heart and about the earth.
And I mean, when we had Prop 215, it was just a more beautiful time because when you go in, it was like picking out perfume or picking out anything, right? You can go in and wasn't a, I mean, I do graphics, I do the bags, I do it, but it got so much about the label rather than what's in the what you're buying. And it used to just be like, no, just look at it like a buffet, enjoy it, smell it, and you're like, that's it. And then they just bag it up in front of you, and because you're not smoking the bag. Like I'm not, and who really keeps half that stuff? I mean, it's they end up on the street anyway. It's like we need to go back to that time where people are more ingrained with just the cannabis itself and what the beneficial properties, and on top of the profiles, the taste, I mean, it's something I miss. Everyone just wanted to maximize it, and I used to work in hydroponics too, and fuck PGRs, fuck phosphaload, fuck it. Everyone started doing it to gain weight, and it's just you guys are ruining the industry because just do it right, put the passion in, get a great product out, and the return will come.
You're talking like a true breeder, my friend. You're hired. Come get all our events now. I love you.
Hey, I appreciate that. It's just if it's just the culture, right? Like if you have the passion for it and you know what it means, it's yeah, it's either you're about it or you're not.
Mhm.
So no, we appreciate it.
I think that's a big difference too. I think about this a lot, like the difference between it being a commodity
Yeah.
or like the culture, and there has to be a place for the commodity. There has to be a place for all of the like bulk biomass that gets sold to go into lotions and face creams and to go and yeah, right, like there's a market for that, and I'm down for that. Like I support that. Like let's put it in everything. Let's see what else this plant can do. But I think you're speaking to something that is so fragile. How have you seen it evolve, like as you've been going through this and as you've been doing your podcast? Like what have you seen shift or change or emerge? Like, is there anything that like what's hopeful to you about it? What are you seeing that's like exciting about how things are changing?
I mean, exciting is, it's always evolution with it. So I'm always excited on what people are doing and coming
Mhm.
out with the new strains and something that's always new. But what's just always holding us back, it's going to be the federal regulations. I mean, we're trying to compete with tobacco and compete with alcohol, and I don't think people understand it's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's what people like to do. So the more we can get just open to decriminalization or to the point of just like, I don't know, reducing it on the federal level to get it appropriate or into these areas, because it's just they go hand in hand, and that's what's crushing us too on revenue. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
you can get alcohol and tobacco at any store, anywhere. There's thousands of markets,
Hmm.
and people are going to spend it on that because it's easier to get
Hmm.
and obtain, and sometimes it's even cheaper. So,
Yeah.
but
So then, what do you think about the rumor mill has that potentially on Friday 4/19 they're gonna announce rescheduling, not descheduling, but
okay.
rescheduling to Schedule 3.
I mean,
What
I
do you
know,
think about that?
I mean, it's happened before, right? Like I think we've all been on the carousel. I have seen she's been more open about it. They have been more open about it, and I just hope they push forward with something, but there needs to be a way for us to get more revenue without having to pay so much in tax and other
Hmm.
issues. Like it's a business to where you're paying just to do what you want, but it should be a business to where you, like the more passion and the more stuff you're putting into it, the more money you should be making, right? I
Yeah.
mean, not a lot of us have a lot of money,
Mm.
so we try to put more of the passion and what else we can into it, and you can tell it. So,
I agree with you. When so I spoke on a panel sorry, and keep going back to this, but spoke on a panel at MJ Unpacked on the imperative for breeding for biodiversity, right? And at the end of it, and it's kind of like it was a great discussion around what are we looking for? Why is biodiversity important? What's keeping us from there? And like the focus on collaboration, right? Breeders, brands, cultivators, everyone needs to collaborate in the industry together to like make this happen, as you were talking about. You can't just always be growing for the broker. But at the end of it is like, what do we need to do in order to make everybody want to breed for biodiversity? And that was exactly what I said. I was like, you have to remember that this is a policy problem. Like the reason that we have so little diversity in strains is because, and Jeremy Kletke coined this phrase, which I love, but there was like a war of genocide on this plant. Every time they kicked down a door and took down a grow, every time they threw out all those plants, we lost the moms, we lost the genetics. So it's like that already got narrowed. And then as you have states with like really restrictive laws and policies on like how you can bring in new genetics, how you can breed, how hard they're making it for you to even like as a licensed nursery like us to be able to do pollinations and get new plants in, like it's really hard for us to do it compliantly, right? There's like no real way. And also we don't have the R&D credits. We don't have the subsidies to be able to like say, hey, here's an RFP from the government because we want genetics that are going to do X, Y, and Z. Everything else that's available to every other industry in order to specialize in innovation, all of that is government led. All innovation is government led and supported. Otherwise, people don't have money for it. And it's a policy problem that we're not able to innovate. It's just like what you're talking about with the cash and the capital. It's a policy problem that we can't get lines of credit, that we can't get standard loans, that we can't do.
What are we supposed to do with the cash, right? Like, I mean, like
Get
banks,
robbed.
banks
You.
don't want to
That's
deal
what you're
with
supposed to
us.
do.
There's no, like, if you want to pay for cannabis insurance, people don't even know this either. But likelihood is, if you're paying for cannabis insurance, it's too much, or it's more than what your like product you even have. So it's not
Yeah.
even worth having. So
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, you get robbed. You just have to eat what you get
Mm-hmm.
robbed, and that's cheaper than paying for the insurance because. So yeah, these policies, the red tapes, it that's the biggest hurdles we're struggling with, and it's tough because like you said, there's no other businesses that have to deal with that.
No.
If they held it just similar to like a restaurant where, oh, you got a health safety, you either get a pass or a fail,
Mm-hmm.
then we'd all be in business. You know what I mean? It would be easy. Like, I mean, there's restaurants with rats running around and these guys can make money, but like we can't even like people don't even know what metric is. And then like that's the base model of like what you have to get in until you start dealing with other hurdles, right? Like, and on top of the material that we have to throw away and like there's already so much loss
Yeah.
already, right? And then it's and then the more you expand, the more stuff you have. And if it's not selling or not moving or people aren't paying, right? Like that's another big issue too. Like it's like everyone tries to do the 30-day or even whatever, and you're still waiting 60, 90 days sometimes. And you're like, come on, guys.
Well, and that's the thing again, like no industry is a closed loop the way cannabis is.
Yeah.
So because we don't have access to any of the normal financial and monetary tools, right? Like loans, like credit cards, like lines of credit, like supply chain financing, we are 100% dependent on the revenue that comes in from the point of sale from the customer. No other industry works like that because you know that there's product loss along the way. You know that there's R&D that needs to happen. You know that there's, a million other things that you have to pay into. It's not all coming in through consumer sales. And so this idea that like we all get bottleneck by what goes into the register and then that store gets robbed and that cash is out of the system entirely, like it's completely absurd that we are trying to pretend like we actually are just like straight capitalism when in reality capitalism doesn't exist like that. Like everyone's getting influx of capital all the time because we live in a large global scale economy. So that I think is the hardest part, is that it's forcing us to like believe in a myth of like standard sales, and then it goes down the supply chain, and it's like that's just not realistic. And I don't understand why we tried to build an industry like that and we're not like just this would be my thing. Everyone just needs to sue the regulators. That's all we need to do. Sue the regulators. Like I love Nicole Elliott. She is a bleeding heart for our industry, but like someone just needs to sue Nicole Elliott, and that's how industry is done. I used to work for Sony. I used to work for aerospace, and if they didn't like a regulation and it wasn't working for them, you know what they did? They sued the government, and then the government changed the regulation. Like, we need to just stop acting like activists and act like industry leaders
Yes.
that expect regulators to serve us rather than like being grateful and being like, shoot, let's get out the vote. It's like, no, we already voted. Now I just need my regulations to be realistic.
Come on now, you can't even do this. Look.